Well, it appears that the Florida Gators just might lose DeShawn Purdie from their transfer portal class.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free for listen to the podcast and on YouTube. As always, I'm your host, Brandon Olsen. Happy Saturday. Kind of an impromptu live show, kind of not. Yesterday, I had told our subtext group, the Insider Program, which if you want to join that, the link is in the description below. But I had told the Insider Program that, hey, we were probably going to have a bonus show today. This morning, I said, hey, you know what? We're going to do a live show. Here we are. But we were supposed to be talking about the transfer portal visits that were expected to happen today. North Carolina State DB Brandon Cease and Southern Miss DB Michael Caraway Jr. were supposed to visit today, and they couldn't because of the snowstorms in Atlanta this past weekend, or I guess yesterday, and I believe Thursday it started. But so because of those snowstorms, couldn't exactly travel. So those two visits didn't happen, but it is being reported that they're going to try to set those visits up for next weekend. So there's that. I see you in the chat. I love you, except for Harold Plemons, who said go Canes. Hate you. Travis772 said go Gators, and I love you. But so we were going to talk about the transfer portal visitors, and then Graham Hall, 24/7, who has been on the show before, Graham reported, and I'll read some of the report. Harold Plumman said, hate you back. You're still here, so I appreciate you sticking around. But Graham Hall said, Florida landed a transfer commitment from freshman QB DeShawn Purdie from Charlotte, giving UFA signee at the position who is expected to provide necessary depth at signal caller. However, in the last couple weeks, Purdie has apparently had second thoughts about taking a secondary role to DJ Lagway, and I've heard the way this is trending is that Purdie will imminently ask to be released from his signed financial aid affidavit by Florida, and he will not enroll at Florida. If this changes, I will provide an update, and it hasn't been finalized yet, but sources believe this is trending to Purdie not going to the Gators or not joining the Gators. All that to say that, sure, maybe you can look at it and say, well, he was your backup quarterback. You never wanted him to play, and all that stuff. And you go, yeah, well, you got DJ Lagway. But here's the thing, Harrison, no. We'll talk about that in a second. But when I look at this, I say, because again, I know that people are going to try to dismiss it. I will not dismiss it. I think it's a big loss, honestly. I've been saying that I don't think there was a great way to address quarterback in the portal because you're just in a really tough spot. You've got a true freshman quarterback that looked really good when he was playing, when he was healthy. He looked really good, DJ Lagway. That is going to deter, there's not going to be a starter quality senior that's going to want to come to Gainesville knowing that, hey, I'm going to end my college career as a backup unless there is an injury. I'm going to end my college career as a backup. You're not going to get that from a starter quality player because a starter quality player is going to go, well, I'm going to go start somewhere. So you lose that, or you're not going to get a great starter quality quarterback because of that. You're also not going to get a great 2024 QB, like a blue chip 2024 QB, because you're not going to be able to sell them on, yeah, you're going to sit for a few years. Not going to happen. Blue chips do not like sitting for a few years, right? The thing with DeShawn Purdie was at least, hey, he wasn't a blue chip recruit. He came in and played at Charlotte, and he played pretty well at Charlotte, but not amazing over. Chad, I see you. When I'm done with my rant, we'll get to it. But he played pretty well at Charlotte, was the second best true freshman deep ball passer in the country, behind DJ Lagway. And so you're losing that, right? Like you're losing that from your roster, from your transfer portal class, and that sucks. But I've been saying, and I will continue to say, that adding DeShawn Purdie, I think, was your best possible chance, or your best possible way to address the quarterback position in the transfer portal. Because again, you're not getting a starter quality backup, and I don't want a backup quality backup, right? Like, I want a guy that I can at least say, hey, he's going to be a future at some point. Okay. So not going to get a starter quality backup there, which sucks. You're not going to get a blue chip quarterback like who was it? Aaron Noland. Aaron Noland was a guy that a lot of people started talking about when I said, hey, you're not going to get a 2024 blue chip to come back up DJ Lagway. There were a lot of people in the comments that were like, oh, well, Aaron Noland went to South Carolina and he's going to back up Lenora Sellers. There's a big difference between that, right? Lenora Sellers just finished his redshirt freshman season, which means that after the 2025 season, he will be draft eligible. So if he wants to leave, he can leave, which means that there's a possibility Aaron Noland is a backup for 1 year. Most likely, it'll be 2 years, and he might portal again after 2025 if Lenora Sellers doesn't leave. But there's a possibility 1 year as a backup and then probable starter in the SEC. But if you were to come to Florida, where DJ Lagway just finished his true freshman season, then that means that he's going to sit for 2 full seasons. That's why you're not going to get a blue chip backup quarterback or a blue chip true freshman backup quarterback, because they're not going to want to come in and back up DJ Lagway for at least 2 years. Okay? That's why it's tough to get that. That's why when DeShawn Purdie came over, I was like, okay, that's fantastic, because you're getting a true freshman backup that actually played and looked pretty good in that time. You don't get better than that. So I do think that it's a big loss to lose DeShawn Purdie, not just because of the quarterback room, but because I thought DeShawn Purdie was really good. Stylistically, he could do what you're going to ask DJ Lagway to do. And so the fact that you don't have that anymore, or that you likely won't have that anymore, kind of sucks. Especially when you look at the transfer portal right now at quarterback, it's not exactly awesome, right? Like, looking at just the best available on On3, you got Matthew Sluka from UNLV, who he's not going to come here and be a backup. You got Devin Brown from Ohio State, maybe, but I mean, he's a junior that couldn't crack the rotation there. Jaden Rashada's back in the portal. Chandler Rogers from Cal. Joe Pizanski. Like, I'm naming people that I don't think any of us know who the hell these people are, right? Kai Horton is a name that I know, but if I'm not mistaken, Kai Horton is not withdrawing from the transfer portal. It was Tristan Tyler. The Tulane QB that played against Florida is the one that withdrew from the transfer portal, and he's moving to tight end. So there's that. Tate Rodemaker at Southern Miss. There's not a lot of names that I even recognize in this transfer portal. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, you want to go get him back? Riley Trujillo, I wonder if he's related to Bailey. That's just interesting. Cade McNamara is in the portal again. Yeah, a lot of guys. Chris Parson was a one-time Florida commit or one-time Florida target. There's not a good answer in the transfer portal, right? The highest rated quarterback remaining is Matthew Sluka. So unless you're getting someone and convincing them to enter the transfer portal, which is not likely, then you're losing out there, right? And chat, I see you guys popping off. I went on a rant way longer than I thought I would. We're going to hit a break, and then when we get back, we'll spend the rest of the time talking with you about whatever it is you guys are talking about. I'm not going to lie. I was just going off on a tangent there. But when we get back, we will talk about everything you guys are talking about. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. By the way, I hate tax season. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get you on your return right away. Right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions, which, by the way, if you do it yourself, TurboTax is how I do it and how I've done it for years. TurboTax experts give your taxes their undivided attention while you get real-time updates on the progress. So if you're ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed, Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off of your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available TurboTax Live, full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app, and see guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, and they start today. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. I'm ready to lose some money on an AFC North matchup because the Ravens and Steelers are not very profitable. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Just a reminder, not going live after today's basketball game. Will be going live after Tuesday night's basketball game. Like I told you guys earlier in the week, I will be gone. Like I'm taking a little weekend trip. So I will be gone for the next 36 hours ish. And so not going, I'll be available, but not able to go live. So not going live after today's basketball game. But going back through the chat, because love you guys. Harrison, you mentioned we should say no to releasing DeShawn Purdie from his letter of intent. The reason I say that I don't like that idea, which I agree with you saying like these kids need to learn how the real world works at some point. In the real world, when you sign an agreement, there are significant penalties for defaulting. I agree with that. But I don't think, hey, we're essentially going to hold you hostage is the way to do it. In the NFL, you could trade people, right? In college, you can't do that. But I do think that you're right that, yes, these kids do need to learn at some point how the real world works. How it's like, oh, portal. And you always see the memes of like that meme that I love is just like, boo, did I scare you? I'm a job application. Or we go like, oh, yeah, get ready to learn CDL, buddy. Like those things. Funny. Makes sense, right? Because at a certain point, you do have to grow up. However, I don't like the idea of saying, hey, well, we're going to hold you hostage here. Because it's not just about playing football here, right? It's about they have to live here. It's different where if you sign a contract with a job and you decide, you know what, I don't want to work there actually. I want to leave and go somewhere else. Usually that won't require you to move. Here, that would require you to move somewhere because you're not going to go to another college in Gainesville, right? You're going to have to move somewhere. And so for me, it's different. It's also going to school is a big part of this. They're student athletes, which you could argue is professional as it's gotten. They're still student athletes, so there's that. So I do think that there needs to be some kind of repercussion for this. And I've been saying that we're going to continue seeing players request their release from their letter of intent because there's no repercussions for this. I mean, Florida just benefited from it with Dallas Wilson, right? And granted, there are other circumstances with Dallas Wilson, some familial circumstances with Dallas Wilson. But my point is just like we've seen kids increasingly in recent history start to sign their letter of intent and leave their letter of intent. And so I do think that there does need to be some kind of repercussions there. I just don't think that holding a kid hostage is the way to go. Like, I don't think it should be Florida saying no. I think maybe the NCAA should have some kind of rule about it. You know, you sign a place, you have a week to request your release from the letter of intent. After a week, you're locked in. Because what likely happened with DeShawn Purdie, if we're being honest, is another school probably came to him, and I know people are saying it's Georgia. Another school probably came to him and said, hey, you could be a starter here. Or we'll give you more money to be because we need a higher quality backup. And if it's a money thing, I would match it. I don't care what it is. I've said DeShawn Purdie is the best you're going to get in the portal. It's the best situation. Get him. So maybe that's a thing. But yeah, I do think there needs to be something. I just don't think it should be the school saying, hey, no. I think it should be the NCAA getting off. Like I feel like they sit on their hands. Get off your hands and make a move and do something to help this. Because I also don't think that it helps the kids, right? Like you mentioned, they need to learn how the real world works. I don't think it helps them to know that, hey, I could bounce around frequently wherever I want. And you're going to see a lot of kids not make it to the NFL, partially because they keep portaling. Like Jaden Rashada right now, I think has a very slim chance of ever making it to the NFL just because he keeps portaling. You're never going to earn a starting spot and develop chemistry and learn the system if you just keep portaling every year. It's not going to happen. It's going to be what, Jaden Rashada's 4th commitment in the past 2.5 years? That's rough. 5th, because he was Miami as well. So, yeah, that's rough. It was Miami, Florida, Arizona State, Georgia, and now wherever he's going. NFL teams are going to look at that and they're going to question your character, which I'm not saying you should. I'm telling you NFL teams are going to. Because NFL teams ask everything and they question everything. They'll question your parents and ask if that's an impact on your decision-making. Ryan Tupper, what's up? Can't only have a former Yale QB as your backup and unproven true freshman. Deathwalk Recordings said, is Clay Millen gone? Also, Deathwalk Recordings said, appreciate all you do, brother. Hey, no fans, no listeners, no subscribers, no Brandon Olsen on the screen. No show, right? So thank you all so much for, again, and I know I say this a lot, but thank you so much for just allowing me the opportunity to cover our Florida Gators. But yeah, no, you can't have a former Yale QB. And look, Aiden Warner now is going to actually get time in the system to develop. Sure. Am I comfortable with him as the backup? Hell no. Am I comfortable with Tramel Jones as the backup? Hell no. And that's not a knock on Tramel. I have always been very outspoken about I don't like the idea of most true freshmen playing at quarterback or linebacker or safety or O-line. Those are the spots. On another note, if it's true that he's going to Georgia, that means Kirby's going to take our backup to be his starter since Stockton was trash. I'm grasping at straws. This is a loss. Yeah, I don't even care. If Georgia takes him for whatever reason, they're still hurting Florida. And to me, that's what matters. Like, Florida is still missing out here. I don't care if he's going to Georgia, if he's going back to Charlotte. I don't care if he's going to some school in the Pacific Northwest. He's leaving Florida, likely. Again, likely. If it's a money thing, again, I'm matching. If I'm Florida. I'm saying, hey, we'll pay you starter money to stay here because, hey, we think you're really good. We think we can keep you. And if there's an injury, we think we could still compete with you. To me, that's all the selling point I need. You have to start investing in your backup QB. You have to. Mr. Nobody's up in here. Who's Clay Millen? Yeah. Clay Millen, for those of you who don't know, the Colorado State quarterback that transferred in last year and lost the backup job to Aiden Warner. Says all you need, right? Says all you need to know there. And maybe he competes. Maybe when he learns the system better, he'll compete. But for now, we're going to be not super optimistic about things, right? About that, at least. I got to stop following recruiting again. Man, I was so happy 2-3 years ago. Yeah, I have said it so many times. Recruiting is not for everyone. Following recruiting is not for everyone. And you're not a worse fan for not following recruiting, okay? Recruiting is a fickle beast. It hurts your heart sometimes. It's not for everyone, and that's fine. You could just say, hey, I support everybody. I want the Florida Gators to succeed. That's it. Clayman's still here, but lost to a QB from Yale. There we go. Gary Barker said Billy needs to figure it out. Absolutely. Was surprised we got someone of this caliber to be a backup. I guess he was, for some reason, thinking he'd take DJ's job. Suppose it was too good to be true after all. I don't think he ever thought he was taking DJ's job. I think that other players, as in other schools, got in his ear and were basically like, hey, man, why are you choosing to sit for the next 2 years? You can compete for a starting spot right here, and if you don't win it, next year you compete again. And that's more likely. Can't figure it out, Gary, because he's on the commitment. Yeah. I'm not going to say that other part, but sure. We're a joke. I don't think we're a joke for this. Bring back the sit out a year after transferring rule on a second transfer. I support that rule, Ryan, unless there's a head coach change or if you can get the hardship waiver, then I support that one. They definitely need to bring the rule back. Teams need to start standing strong and not releasing these kids from agreements unless there's a legitimate reason like Dallas Wilson's situation. I'm certain he wanted to at least get assurance that he'd be able to compete and get snaps. I don't know about that. I don't think anybody was looking at this quarterback situation at Florida. And I don't think anybody was looking at that quarterback situation at Florida and going, yeah, I'm going to come compete with DJ Lagway. I don't think anybody thought that. And if you did think that, you need better people around you. Because that's another important part to talk about when we talk about college specifically. Maybe not so much the NFL, but college specifically. Your camp, your circle, your people around you need to be honest with you and telling you if this is a good situation for you or not. And at no point was, hey, you might compete for the starting spot at Florida, a legitimate possibility. So if anybody told you that, you need better people around you. Okay? Who cares? Give me Horner. No, thank you. You don't release him in this age of sports, Florida will end up in a lawsuit, and that's not good for future recruits. Yes, okay. You're saying if you don't release them in this age of sports, Florida will end up in a lawsuit, another one, and that's not good for future recruits. That'd be a way to look at it, but another way to look at it is simply expecting them to honor the agreement they chose to sign. They were not forced to sign it. It was their decision. Other teams kept tampering. Yeah, the way that Harrison, the way that I look at it is that I agree with you that something needs to be done about the letter of intent stuff. Unless you can prove you have a legitimate reason for wanting out of your letter of intent. I think it's fine to, again, I just spitballed the idea of, you get a week to request the release. Or like you commit and then you have a week before you're allowed to sign. So you can commit and then there's another week of other teams trying to get you and your commitment's about playing defense, trying to go there. Maybe that's that. Is anyone watching the Navy All-American game? I will be. Florida looks nothing like the teams I'm watching in the playoffs, and until Billy Napier gives up the offensive play calling, we never will. Can we please get an OC? I don't think – what's up, Q? I don't think Billy's going to get a new OC. I've heard he's potentially looking at OC and DC from the NFL. Yeah, we'll talk about the rumored names as well next week. We'll get into those. We'll dive into some of them. If DJ doesn't get hurt, this all means nothing. Exactly. I've just seen so much creativity from these playoff teams and getting their studs the rock, and all I can think is that Billy would never do that, but I guess we got to get past 8 wins first. Yeah. Look, I've been very vocal that I think it's not the scheme, it is the play calling, and part of that is get the ball to your playmakers in any way you can. If that's throwing them screens, jet sweeps. I don't have a problem with jet sweeps. I don't have a problem with bubbles. I really don't. I think as long as you've still got the threat of throwing deep, you're fine. Is there actual smoke for an OC coming in? There has been actual smoke every year since Billy got hired. We talked about this last year. I know Florida didn't hire an OC, and I see you, Ray Graves. I know Florida didn't hire an OC last year, and people went, oh, Billy was never going to hire an OC. Michael Hansford, you heard me reading a comment that said that. That's what you heard. Someone, Ryan Tupper said that I've heard he's potentially looking at OC and DC from the NFL. But for as far as there being actual smoke, there was actual smoke last year. Okay. Billy spoke to offensive coordinators last year. He spoke to, I know of at least one that he spoke to this year. And I mean, at least one as in, I know that for a fact I've spoken to someone that he's spoken to. Will it actually happen? I don't know. I told you guys last year what we heard was he spoke to guys and he was like, you know what? I don't think that they're going to run the offense better than me, so I'm going to back out. That's the ego thing I've been talking about. Ray Graves, if we made no further additions in the portal, would you be happy with the roster as is? Maybe. I don't think so, though. I do think that I think you need to add an offensive tackle. I think you need to add a little bit more help on the D-line. And now I think you need to go look for a backup quarterback somewhere. Go tamper. Go get one, right? Just go get one. I don't care. I'm open to tampering. Go ahead. Everyone's tampering. DeShawn Purdie was tampered with. TJ Searcy was tampered with. Jack Pyburn was tampered with. People are tampering. Go get them. Okay? Go tamper and go get yourself a backup quarterback that can run this offense if DJ Lagway gets hurt. Cam Ward to Carson Beck's a major downgrade, but hey, it's the ACC. Yeah. I feel like Last year before the season, I was saying Cam Ward's a great NFL prospect. Carson Beck, by the way, I don't like when people go, oh, Carson Beck, and we'll end with this. I don't like when people go, oh, Carson Beck would not have gone to the NFL draft and would not have been drafted. He still would have been a 4th-round pick, okay? Even with the injury, he still would have been a 4th-round pick. And yeah, he didn't look great this year. He had some really bad stats this year when you look at them. But when you also look at, he had the worst supporting cast he's ever had. He's going to use that as an excuse if he would have gone to the NFL. He would have used that as an excuse for why his numbers dipped, why his productivity dipped, why his film dipped. It's tough. It's tough. But yeah, Carson Beck still would have gone to the NFL. Is what it is. But we're going to wrap this up. Hopefully the Florida Gators win. Billy has cost us at least 5 games. Yeah, it cost like 3 this year. 2 this year, we'll say. At least 2 this year. So we'll say Texas A&M and we'll say Tennessee this year. Right? But thanks for being Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. Or we'll be back Monday. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.